It is without any hubris at all. I ask you the following question. How many people here have been or are a supervisor or above? How many of you received training for that program? Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, if you've received no training, you're not a supervisor. You're just a name. It's just a word you put on your email. See, being a supervisor is more than just having a title on your door or a name tag. My first supervisor ever was a woman called Jess. She was a prison wardress. She was a battery sergeant major in the Women's Land Army, and she could outswear and outdrink any man I've ever known. But more important than that, she could do every facet and train everyone on any part of our job in that printing area. I know because she taught me how to work the camera, the printing machines, the guillotine, both photocopiers. She knew how to train people. My point is, a supervisor is a training grade. It's a training position. There's a difference between delegating and passing the buck, which is what a lot of people do now. I can't work that videographer. I'll get Courtney to do it next week if that's the business I'm going to be. That's passing the buck. Instead of saying, Courtney, could you train me how to do that? My next supervisor who followed Jess was Bert. Bert was a yes man. Yeah, I told her that. And it come to a head when my deputy supervisor and I called him a liar in front of everyone. And it was brought over to the office, and she just said to him, look, if you don't know how to do the job, ask. But don't say you know if you don't. I have this habit of being outspoken when I'm pushed sometimes. When I was in Canada, my last supervisor at the law firm used to say, oh, I know that job, Cliff, I've done that shift. She used to say things like, when I work at the fax desk, here's what I do. And 5 minutes later say, Shelley, could you send the fax for me, please? Because I'm a complete flummox in front of fax machines. I can't work them. And it come to a head one night where I had to pull a file back for a lawyer before court because he needed it tonight. And I spent half an hour making the arrangements, and she said, Tom, thank you. I could not have done that. And we had a quick staff meeting the following morning, and then she said, you should upgrade your skills, all of you. Take interest, learn more. Why, only last night, I had to help Tom because he couldn't pull a file back in time. You liar. So I was pulled into the office again by the office manager. You may notice a routine coming up here now. And I said, before you ream me out and carpet me, why don't you ask 1, 2, 3 people who were there last night? Ask them. We'll walk outside the room and you ask them the questions I've wrote down. And she called us in and she just said, don't lie to your staff. If you can't do a job, say so. You have to have people skills when you're a supervisor. If you have no people skills, which is what we come here for, people skills are saying, Laurie, there's a better way than doing that. Instead of going up to Laurie, standing 2 inches from his face and screaming at him. That was tried with me as well. And yes, I was called into the office for that as well. And it's a wonder I hadn't been fired by now. But I wasn't. I went to my human resources officer and just said, look, I wouldn't speak to a dog in the street the way she speaks to people. You don't talk to people like that. You don't make people burst into tears and go into the women's washroom. In closing, if you have not received training to be a supervisor or above, that title to you is a name on a piece of paper. if you can't facilitate any of their duties, which is why my point for discussion is, it should be mandatory for all people in a position of supervisor or above to have taken part in a formal training course by the company and have proof they have done so. You can't tell people how to do their job if you don't know how to do it yourself. I'm open for questions. Linda.
Yes, sir. If you were going to be the head of this training session, what are the 3 main points that you would stress in the training?
Main points I would stress is, say what you know, say what you don't know, and get people skills. If we know what you don't know, we can train you. If we know what you do know, we can put your skills to use elsewhere within training. And if you don't have people skills, you need to use them and learn them pretty quickly. Any more questions? Yes, Janine.
But is it necessary for the supervisor to know the little details of everybody's job, the nitty-gritty, or should they rather be overseeing that the entire project comes together and allowing people to, you know, get it done on their own?
Both are important. In the hotel industry, my friend Fulvio, he was one of my ushers at my wedding, became a senior manager at the Westin Bayshore, and before he took up his position, he had to go through every facet of the hotel, including changing clothes on the bed, before he actually got to do his manager's job, because they wanted to make sure he knew what he was talking about when he was talking to people on how to do that job. Yes?
Since I'm a supervisor and I attend Toastmasters, would you call me a trained supervisor?
I call you someone who has superior speaking skills. Yes, Janine.
Would you say somebody who is a supervisor in another company that does a lateral move to your company, considering that they supervised there, would you consider them supervised if they switched companies?
No, I consider them supervised in their previous company, because how companies work are completely different. How one accounting company works and how another accounting company works is completely different. The functions of the company will remain the same, but the inner workings of the company will be completely different. You have to learn the company you go to. You can't say, well, in my old company we did this. Yes, Lou?
With the training that you seem to be stressing, the points that you seem to be stressing in the training basically very general and seem to boil down to just people skills. So you don't have
People skills
skills
and job knowledge skills. It's been my experience with supervisors that there seem to be, when people get to be a supervisor, they never say to them, Carla, we're going to send you on a training course. Well, let's put it this way. Carla's a good example. Do you just get a sergeant's stripe, or do you take an exam to get it?
Well, this is good because I was going to lead into a question to ask you. You get training, but the thing that lacks is people skills, and even the people that are getting the people skills, which isn't very important, they're not exercising those skills when they are in their position. So they get training about what their duties are, but to me, like you're saying, the more important thing is how to communicate and talk to people and listen.
I'd say it's 50-50. You have to. I had a friend called Andrew, and he was going for a supervisor's position, and he could write a thesis paper on how to work a printing machine. It would be several volumes long, it would be a Pulitzer Prize winner. But he couldn't physically say, Janine, this is how you work a machine. He couldn't put he could put his things over in words, but it couldn't translate the words into physically and personally training people. I thank you for all your questions.